Hey everybody, it's Greg again. We're back with part two of the classic TV tribute of the weekend. We're doing Batman Tilly. Batman. Okay. In part one, we talked about some of the characters. Now we're going to really talk about how shaping how it's cancer. But before I do that, we talk about the Riddler and Catwoman. Who could ever forget the Penguin? Burgess Meredith. What a guy, huh? Burgess Meredith was a great character actor. He did a lot of early TV shows like Twilight Zone, some classic episodes of Twilight Zone. But of course, I would always remember Burgess Meredith as being Mickey in Rocky Balboa and Rocky, Rocky's trainer. And so I always remember Burgess Meredith there and Cesar Romano. I still can't roll my R's. Was the Joker. Now, we've had some fine Jokers. Heath Ledger, Joaquin Phoenix, Jack Nicholson. But to me, the one and only Joker will be Cesar Romano, the Latin lover himself, Ricardo Montalban, Cesar Romano. Anyway, okay, so just picking up where we left off. During the reign of Batman, as I said, especially during the 66 season, 67, he really a popular show. And Batman gave a lot of personal appearances away from the series. People couldn't get enough of Batman. They were that crazy. In fact, Adam West did a country and western song called Miranda. The actors tried to make a buck when they could while the series was popular. So even Frank Gorshin, who played the Riddler, did a song called The Riddler. What else, right? The Riddler. And Burt Ward did a song. It was a spoken song called Boy Wonder, I Love You. And it was a song about a teenage girl writing to the heartthrob Burt Ward, Robin Dick Grayson. And I guess he got a lot of fan mail back in the day. And guess what? This song was written and produced by the one and only Frank Zappa. Can you believe that? Frank Zappa wrote Boy Wonder, I Love You. I just can't put the two together. It's like Alice Cooper would write a song for Adam West. I don't know. Anyway, as there was a long, long time, I remember this, where we wanted the Batman series to come out on DVD, Blu-ray, even back in the 80s, back on tape, if you can remember cassette tapes. And it never did. And the reason why was because the rights. There were a lot of rights, so much red tape, because certain entities owned the Batman logo, certain entities owned the comic part of it, and then the music, and everything had to be, they had to get the rights for it. Even when they had, do you remember how Batman and Robin used to climb the buildings with a rope, and people would look out of the window, surprise guest appearances, like Jerry Lewis all of a sudden would pop his head out the window and say, Batman. All those people who were in that series who did those guest things, they had to get the rights from them. If not, they would get sued. So it was either get the rights or just cut that part of the show out completely. So it took a long, long time, many, many years, to secure all of these rights in order to eventually release the series all 3 seasons to the fans. You know who really spearheaded this thing? Back in 2014, Conan O'Brien. Yes, Conan. Big fan of Batman, the series. Had Frank Gorshin on the show, by the way. If you Google it, you'll see Gorshin was on the show, talked about the Riddler role. Gorshin talked about that he was the act. Right? I remember when the Beatles were on Ed Sullivan, that February 9th, 1964, I believe, if memory serves. He was the act that followed the Beatles. What a thankless job, huh? After all that screaming and craziness, he was the act. And they were like, Frank, hello, ladies and gentlemen, Frank Gorshin. And everybody was exhausted. It was Frank Gorshin. So Conan O'Brien was a big fan, and he helped facilitate the release of the DVD Blu-ray collection package of Batman the series. Adam West died in 2017, and he died of leukemia. And the thing with Adam West, it's been a fascinating career when you think about it. He was this actor who really couldn't get many big parts in Hollywood up until Batman. And then after he got the role of Batman, he was typecast forever. Nobody wanted to hire the guy because he thought all he could do was wear these tight purple tights and jump around and do the Bat-Tuesday dance and whatever that. Shame. There was a rumor out there. I don't know how true it is. I don't see stuff that Adam West got into pornographic movies or something. I don't know that time. But I do know that for many, many years, Adam West tried to distance himself from the Batman role. Like, time to time, they would want to do reunion shows, call up Adam West to do a commercial or something. And for a long time, he resisted. He didn't want anything to do with Batman. He wanted to stay far away from Batman as possible. But then he changed his mind, I guess because he figured, you know what, I could make some money out of this, And then he started taking all kinds of commercials and all kinds of Batman memorabilia stuff, and he actually embraced it then before he died, thank God. And he wrote a book. He wrote his autobiography called something Back to the Batcave or something like that, I remember this, 1967. ABC, because of the success of Batman, had another show similar called The Green Hornet. The Green Hornet and Kato, remember that? The Green Hornet was played by Van Johnson, and Kato, his little buddy, was played by the one and only Bruce Lee. And he did all these karate moves and cha-cha-cha. Well, they did a crossover in order to help both shows. So for a few episodes in the 1967 season, the Green Hornet and Kato crossed over to Batman and Robin, and they joined forces to fight the Colonel Gum, Gumm. Colonel Gum was the villain, and by the end of it, Green Hornet and Kato actually were fighting Batman and Robin. And the reason was because Green Hornet and Kato were considered villains themselves, even though I don't want to get into their story, but the thing is, they were really good guys. They were fighting against crime, but they were seen in some circles as being villains themselves. Anyway, so they got into it before the cops showed up, and then so there are a lot of Batman toys Yeah, after the series ended in 1968, then came a lot of the collectibles. All of a sudden, people thought, yeah, a lot of this Batman shit that I have laying around the house is going to be worth something, and it is. Batman lunchboxes, Batman little figurines, Batman this, Batman that. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who still have that stuff, and it's worth a lot of money. Well, around the 80s and 90s, I guess, as people were reminiscing about the old times in the 60s, uh, these Batman collectible stuff became really sought after, you know? And so anything Batman toys wise was really collectibles. And Adam West, in order to pick up a few bucks here and there, he did some commercials too. 1966, he did a Batman commercial for Lava Soap. Lava Soap. In 1974, he did a commercial for Rally Car Wax. Car Wax. This is how I wax up the Batmobile. Alfred even did a commercial. Fact toothpaste. Do you remember Fact? I barely remember it, but apparently Alfred did a commercial for Fact to Batman did a U.S. savings bonds. He did a lot of these PSAs, public service announcements, and he did one for U.S. savings bonds, encouraging kids to save their money and save bonds. And there was actually in the Batman summer of '66 when they did the movie, it was Batman Live, where Adam West and Frank Gorshin got together and actually went on tour. I kind of remember this vaguely. They did a show, they were on TV. I forget if it was the Hollywood Palace or whatever, but they were both dressed in their costumes. It was really weird. Really, just their costumes. Adam West and his Batman, Frank Gorshin and his Riddler. And you wonder, okay, they're there telling corny jokes and puns and all kinds of things, but they're having a custom. And I'm thinking for the kids who really believe in this shit, they're like, Batman, why aren't you arresting the Riddler? He's right there. Put him in handcuffs and take him off to jail. I mean, what the hell? What are you doing standing there telling jokes with the Riddler? I mean, it was so popular. David went on tour during the summer of '66, and they ended up at Shea Stadium place in New York on June the 25th, 1966, right after the Beatles. Can you believe that the Beatles appeared there in what, 65? Shea Stadium, and then you had Batman and the Riddler. I mean, good. Who would have thunk it, right? Well, how did Batman start? Okay, real quick. Batman started, they wanted to do actually, I hate to say this, but Hugh Hefner, who was this Playboy guy who started Playboy magazine, Playboy Mansion, he was a big Batman serials back in the 1940s. You know, before the main movie, these movies showed cowboy serial and superhero. And Hugh Hefner remembered that, and he actually got all the old Batman serial reels from back then. And one night, he showed them all. It was Batman night at the Playboy Mansion. He showed them all one night at the Playboy Mansion. Well, it went over so well, and he had so many executives there and stuff. They said, you know what, we want to come up with an idea for a Batman TV show. And originally, the show was scheduled to be on Saturday mornings. There was going to be a live action show, as we saw, but it was going to be a very serious show. It was going to be like the Lone Ranger. Remember the Lone Ranger? No comedy or anything. The Adventures of Superman with George Reeves. Remember that? No comedy. It was just a serious superhero story. That's what Batman was going to be. But then the executives got together and they said, hey, you know what? This isn't going to work. But the only way this is going to work is if we make it into a campy kind of thing where we have fun with it. We kind of make fun of ourselves, you know? It's a ridiculous premise and script. We're just gonna have fun with it, and that's how it eventually got to be shown in prime time, and a lot of the scripts were written by this guy whose name, who helped to develop the series with William Dozier. His name was Lorenzo Semple, and he was the head writer of the show. And he wrote most of the early shows, the early episodes of Batman. And then he got a team of other writers, and he's the one who instituted a numerous amount of Bat rules, like the utility belt. Batman always has to be this and that. Bat rules. And that was Lorenzo's thing. So all these writers, they had the creativity to use their imagination to put Batman in different perils with the Boy Wonder. But it was always the rule that, okay, we would leave you with a cliffhanger on Wednesday, and that Batman somehow and probably gets out of the cliffhanger or first thing on Thursday. We have another big fight in between, and then at the end, Batman wins, and the villain, the Joker, or whatever, goes off to prison. And all was well. That was the basic rules of that. Aunt Harriet. Remember Aunt Harriet? She was the clueless one. She had no clue. Well, Aunt Harriet, she was eventually phased out of the series. You saw her a lot in the first two seasons. Like, she would always be making cookies, or she lived in Wayne Manor with Bruce Wayne, her nephew, who kind of took care of her. And but she was oblivious to the fact that he was really Batman. And so she was eventually phased out because by season 3, she was in poor health. So they only did 2 cameos of this lady, and she was gone. Now, the reason Julie Newmar did not come back for season 3 as the Catwoman was because she was filming a movie called McKenna's Gold. And she couldn't get out of it. So that's when they hired Eartha Kitt to do the season 3. And actually, Holly Berry, who was in the Batman movie from 2003, Batman Returns, I believe, she credited Eartha Kitt as the really a pioneer, because Eartha Kitt was one of the first female Black actors to play in a superhero TV show. Yeah, well, what happened was this. How did Batman started going downhill? Well, it actually started after the first season was done. Lorenzo Sample, no longer, he left the show, and the writing went downhill, like any quality TV show. All the families, it's all in the writing. If you don't have the writers, you don't have squat time. So he left the show, and they actually rushed into the second season. They did the Batman movie in the middle of season 1 and 2, and that was a rush job. And by the time season 2 came around, the scripts weren't ready. They rushed through. It wasn't very well thought out. And then you started seeing more campiness, like Batman surfing, with the Joker. The Joker had his trunks on, and that it was a surfing challenge. Like really, really even more ridiculous things like that. So basically the writing went downhill. And the people, no matter how much they loved Batman and the campiness of it, they said, we can't take this. Now, a few groundbreaking things before I end it. Batman was the first series to have the, when they were fighting, pow, pow, the things would come up on the screen, pow, zap, zap, boink, zoink, doink, 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 doink. That was revolutionary. And we talked about the window cameos when they were using the bat rope to climb up a building or go down a building. Then you'd go and somebody would open the window and surprise, there would be Dick Clark or somebody famous like that at the time. And then, if you remember, when they filmed Batman and they focused on the villains, the Riddler, the camera angle would always be tilted. And that was called the Dutch tilt. That camera angle, Dutch tilt. And they started using that. And the reason was because they wanted the scene with the villains to be a little off center. They wanted you to know that this guy is crooked, and so is the camera, So that was sort of revolutionary. That every time they showed one of the villains, the camera was a little tilted, yeah. Final things. The original Batmobile was auctioned off in 2013. Someone in Arizona has it and bought it for $4.2 billion. And finally, Batman, the series, was canceled in 1968, but NBC was going to pick up the series. Yes, they were going to continue with the series. They thought it still had a lot more potential, get some new writers in there. They would still keep the series going. The only reason why it didn't go from ABC to NBC at the end was because NBC found out that for some reason, a lot of this Batman sets were destroyed. I don't know whether they were destroyed on purpose or by accident, but a lot of those sets, like the Batcave set, were destroyed. And they were worth a lot of money. It would be like $300,000, which back then, think about it, back in 1968, that was a lot of money. It would have been too much money for NBC to replicate the sets. So they decided to pass on the project. So otherwise, Batman would have continued on as a series. Okay, well, that's our Batman tribute. I tell you what, final words. I love it. It was a big part of my youth growing up. Maybe it was a big part of yours too. Maybe if you've never seen it, check it out. Batman is probably still around on some cable networks, so you can stream it, or certainly on the great channel on YouTube. Right now, you can probably find the series too. But check it out because it's way different than the movies. It's done with humor, and it's just a fun show. It was brainless entertainment. And that's what we were into back in the 60s. We had our Lost in Space, which I'm glad to hear we have a lot of Lost in Space fans out there who watched last week. And we had our Batman, and we had our Addams Family, and we had our Beverly Hillbillies. We were okay. I tell you what, not better than a lot of the crappy shows on now. I'm just saying. All right, well, thanks. I'm losing my voice. So thanks for tuning in today. I hope you checked out part 1. This is part 2 of our Batman tribute. And I hope you'll join me tomorrow. We'll talk more again between you and I. And hopefully by then it'll start raining. Who stopped the rain? Remember that song? A lot of rain songs. I love a rainy night. All right, everybody. I'll catch you tomorrow. Peace and love. See you. Take care.